My administration will again adopt rock-solid constitutional conservatives to be federal bench justices and judges, but in the mold of Antonin Scalia and Justice Clarence Thomas, who, by the way, right now is under siege by the radical left. I will continue to stand strong against the extreme late-term abortionists in the Democrat Party who believe in abortion on demand in the 9th month of pregnancy and even executing babies after birth. They actually talk beyond birth, after birth, executing the baby. This is where we've come, and it's so sad to see. Finally, I will require every federal employee to pass a new civil service test demonstrating an understanding of our constitutional limited government. This will include command of due process rights, equal protection, free speech, religious liberty, federalism, the Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable search and seizure. I know all about that at Mar-a-Lago, don't I? And all other constitutional limits on federal power. We will put unelected bureaucrats back in their place, liberate the U.S. economy, and attract millions of jobs and trillions of dollars to our shores. Thank you very much.
Now, there are two major issues at hand here. First of all, if you're looking for a warning about what's at stake in this upcoming election in 2024, it is that Donald Trump, the leading Republican candidate for the nomination, is vowing to add judges in the mold of Clarence Thomas, a promise that comes in the aftermath of the court that Clarence Thomas himself sits on, having struck down Roe v. Wade and a woman's right to a safe and legal abortion in the United States. And that's a decision, mind you, that's led to a massive backlash for Republicans at the ballot box. So not only is it grossly ignorant of 50 years of precedent in this country, but it's not even smart politically. I know those big brains out in the media love to pretend that Donald Trump is some political and marketing mastermind, but here's the message that he is sending right now. Remember the most unpopular Supreme Court decision in modern American history? If you elect me, I'll do more of that. Yeah, truly a genius political calculation. But when it comes to Clarence Thomas specifically, let's be clear about why he's quote-unquote under siege. Thomas has refused to recuse himself on cases that he himself personally has a vested interest in, including cases related to January 6th, despite the fact that his own wife was involved in efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Remember, Ginny Thomas conferred with John Eastman, the lawyer who played a key role in trying to get Pence to block certification of the electoral votes. She pressed 29 Republican state lawmakers in Arizona to disregard Biden's victory in the state and choose their own presidential electors. Her message urged lawmakers to, quote, stand strong in the face of political and media pressure and claimed the responsibility to choose electors was, quote, yours and yours alone, and that it was their responsibility to, quote, ensure that a clean slate of electors is chosen. We also know that she was at the Stop the Steal rally, although she contends that she left before the insurrectionists made their way to the Capitol. And we know that she was texting Trump's then Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, to overturn the election results, saying, quote, help this great president stand firm, Mark, and you are the leader with him who is standing for America's constitutional governance at the precipice. The majority knows Biden and the left is attempting the greatest heist of our history. I mean, this woman is a walking, talking Facebook comment section on a Dan Bongino video. And that might explain why Clarence Thomas was the lone dissent in the Supreme Court's January decision rejecting Trump's bid to withhold documents from the January 6th committee. 8-1. Only Clarence Thomas decided that Trump should be able to withhold documents from the committee investigating his coup attempt on the U.S. Capitol. A coup attempt for which his wife attended the pre-rally, a coup attempt for which his wife was advocating, a coup attempt for which his wife was in communication with the architect. So the idea that this man is not severely compromised is naive at best and criminal at worst. In fact, most recently, Clarence Thomas checked the box labeled none for his wife's income on his disclosure form. During that period, Ginny Thomas actually earned more than $686,000 from the Conservative Heritage Foundation. And when called out on his lie, Thomas said the error was, quote, due to a misunderstanding of the filing instructions. Because why would we expect a Supreme Court justice to understand the law? Silly us. So I know that Republicans love to traffic in perpetual victimhood, but the focus on Clarence Thomas here didn't happen in a vacuum. It's happened because of his own actions. And it's amazing that a political party that calls itself the party of personal responsibility doesn't seem capable of actually taking any. All of which is to say that when Trump threatens to appoint more judges in the mold of this guy, that should be a 5-alarm fire to anyone who cares about the sanctity of our democracy even the slightest bit. And then, of course, Trump went on to try and justify the right's wholly, aggressively unpopular position on abortion by introducing this desperate straw man that Democrats want post-birth abortion. Let's be clear, this is not happening anywhere. Infanticide is not legal anywhere, nor has a single Democrat advocated for it anywhere. If you can find me an example of a Democrat who's calling for babies to be aborted after birth, send it on over. But you won't, because it doesn't exist. And these Republicans know that it doesn't exist, but they think their followers are morons, so they say it anyway. Because no one has more contempt for their own supporters than Republicans. But let's talk about late-term abortions, because this is important. Let's be clear here. According to the CDC, almost 99% of abortions occur before 21 weeks. Republicans love to frame this as liberals just nonchalantly aborting babies on the day of their delivery as casually as they choose their Starbucks lattes, but that is not at all what's happening. Virtually every single abortion is happening before 21 weeks. And so think about why those last 1% of women are getting abortions after 21 weeks. The reasons range from women not knowing that they were pregnant, to fetal anomalies, to health risks for the mother. And so banning abortions after an arbitrary date isn't going to stop the kinds of hysterical reasons that Republicans fearmonger about, like infanticide. It is simply going to impact the 1% of women who are already dealing with some major trauma. Again, 99% of abortions are happening early anyway. The only post-21 week abortions are the result of some major complication. That's who's being impacted. That's who Republicans would be making life more difficult for. The women who are already suffering due to some unforeseen issue. The women who are already going through immeasurable pain. Republicans would be finding the single most vulnerable, desperate, heartbroken women there are and imposing an unnecessary burden onto them for solely political reasons. And let's be clear, they know that, but they're saying whatever they need to say to pander to the base to win an election. Because it's not about helping others, it is about helping themselves. And by the way, Trump and the rest of the GOP understand that they are in the minority here. 70% of Americans support Roe. That is a majority of both Democrats and Republicans. We just watched as Democrats overperformed in historical fashion this past midterm cycle thanks to the Dobbs decision, and even places like deep red Kansas voted against an abortion ban. So let's not pretend that these people are in any way anything other than extremists. All of which is to say that when Trump vows to nominate people like Clarence Thomas if he's reelected, you should absolutely believe him. Trump caused these problems in the first place by nominating far-right judges with allegiances not to the law, but to their political party. Which means all of these problems that we're contending with right now, from abortion to threats to our very democracy, would only get worse if Trump was to ever take power again. This is one of those rare instances where he's actually telling the truth, and we should absolutely believe him. So if for any reason you're thinking of sitting it out in 2024, Trump just gave you the most important argument as to why you need to make sure that your voice is heard. Before you go, I need your help. I'm right on the cusp of hitting 2 million subscribers, so please help me grow this channel so the progressive media ecosystem grows by hitting the subscribe button right here on the screen. I also started a Spanish channel so we can finally start regaining some of that lost ground among Spanish speakers, so if you want to help support those efforts, you can hit that subscribe button. And finally, if you listen to podcasts and you want to support mine, you'll find a link to that on the screen as well. Thanks so much for watching.